We're live from Lagos, Nigeria. This is News Central. I'm Felicity Ezewike. The top stories tonight. Kwara residents flee their community following abduction of village head's wife as Tinubu orders rescue of worshippers abducted in Niger State. Assembly demands urgent action following death of more than 50 children from latest outbreak of diphtheria. And Tanzania's vice president resigns amid worsening power crisis with President Samia Hassan.
In business, lawyers back on board's push for greater compliance in Nigeria's tax administration.
And in sports, 14,000 athletes set for inaugural National Intermediate Games in Lagos State.
Glad you're here with us. Details shortly. We'll begin tonight with a presidential order. President Bola Tinubu has ordered security and intelligence agencies to intensify efforts to rescue Muslim worshippers abducted in Niger State. The worshippers were abducted by gunmen in communities across Bogu local government area shortly after Friday prayers at a central mosque in Ikire. Tinubu has directed the armed forces, police, the DSS and other agencies to mount a coordinated operation to locate and rescue the victims. He has also ordered the service chiefs to provide regular updates until all those abducted are accounted for. The president condemned the attack, describing the perpetrators as enemies of peace and humanity. Still on security, and one of our top stories tonight, Wande and Dabu communities in Ifelodun local government area of Kwara State have been largely deserted following recent abductions, with residents fleeing to nearby communities for safety. In Wande, residents fled after 23-year-old Fasilat Babatunde was abducted while her father was reportedly shot during the attack. In Dabu, residents also abandoned their homes following the abduction of Iya Ayoka, the first wife of the community's Bale. News Central's visit to the two communities showed little human activity, with several homes locked as residents seek safety in neighboring communities. Joshua Imaraye has been in Kwara State. He's joining us now with a first-hand look at the security situation on the ground. We will also have Awal Aliyu, a security expert, speak to developments in both Kwara and Niger State. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Joshua, we spoke yesterday, and today we're still hearing that there are mounting tensions. What is the picture on the ground? Are we looking at isolated abductions here, or is there a growing sense that rural communities are becoming increasingly exposed?
Well, the occurrence in both communities are similar. These two communities, Dabu and Wande, are both in Ifelodun local government area, and they are some sort of closed. One thing we understand is that these communities previously harbored farmers alike who have abandoned the community as a result of these attacks that happened in the various communities. For Dabu, this is the first time such an incident is happening, as well as Wande. This is also the first time that it is happening. But the difference is that in Dabu, it happened recently, where we understand that the incident happened last week, just last week here. But for Wande, we understand that this happened late July, and since then, the individual who has been in captivity of these captors is yet to be released. And we also understand that the father of that individual is still in one of the hospitals around the city center receiving treatment. So this is the reflection of pockets of violence that is forcing people out of the community. We also understand that when we visited the community, although we saw security formation leading to the community, but we understand from first-hand tales and experiences of those who were resident in this community, the abductors took captive of these individuals and made their way out of the community through the bushes. So this reflects the absence of security personnel within the community to forestall such occurrences. Felicity.
All right, Joshua, just stay with us. I have more questions for you, but let's quickly speak to on his thoughts about the fact that these attacks this is the first time, these are fresh attacks in these communities, and so far we're hearing it's deserted. What are your concerns? What were your immediate thoughts when you heard that this is the first time it's happening in these communities and people are leaving their homes?
Well, my first line of thought is that these guys are really scaring people. They are really intimidating people. They are really beginning to make people feel unsafe. While the security agencies are working very, very hard and tirelessly to ensure the safety of life and property, they are bringing in new tactics and new techniques, trying to harass, embarrass, and also molest and put fear into the people so that they will be uncomfortable. I feel bad. I feel also uncomfortable about the situation, but I also know that it is surmountable. I also know that it is just a matter of time that these people will, of course, just like the previous ones that they have had, and by the special grace of God, people have, those abducted have been rescued. The people are scared. They know of what has happened in the past. They know of what has been happening to their people through this unscrupulous element, these criminals. So that is the reason why the people are leaving their houses or their abode in order to run for safety. But the reality is, what they are trying to do is just to install that fear into the community at large. And the community have also absorbed, our community have chosen to leave their abode out of that fear. So which means the guys are they are beginning to think as if they succeed in their campaign, because as far as we are concerned, it is just a campaign of calumny, trying to put fear into the people, like I said earlier. But I know, I repeat, I know very well that it's just a matter of time. This thing will come to an end because the security agencies are mapping out a lot of strategy, a lot of tactics, a lot of techniques are coming into play, and they are working hard day and night to ensure that first dictate even the movement of these people, find out their tactics, get information on every of their activity, their hideout, and things like that, so that they will be taken care of once and for all. This is what is going on. So Nigerians should appreciate, or rather should pray, and encourage our security agencies. And also we should be mindful and careful.
I'm sorry to interject, but your sense of optimism doesn't seem to reflect what is on the ground. I mean, several times we've spoken on this program, and you share optimism that the security agencies are going to step up. But it doesn't seem like there is an upscaling in people feeling more secured. Rather, we see that it seems on a daily, this is a new development in these communities, and there are fears that it will escalate even further. I want you to think about that. I'll come back to you. Joshua, I want add a firm comment. We spoke yesterday, and I was asking about the comments from the security agencies and the government. Is there any comments as to more security for the people? Are there security presence in that community? What can you tell us about the response, official response, and the reality on the ground?
Well, for a fact, on our way to the community, we saw security checkpoints around the area of Okiode axis. The access road leading to the community, we saw another security checkpoint, but 3 communities before that particular community, before Dabu. And the only security formation we saw were soldiers, just 2 soldiers who were on guard with 3 communities before Dabu community. But for the other community, which happens to be Wande, we saw little or no security presence in those communities. These people are still living in fear. They just come, they pick whatever they want to take and flee to the nearest community. For Dabu, we understand that residents of those communities are fleeing to Okiode, the headquarters of that area, for safety. This place is the only place they are assured of their safety. But for Wande, they are still fleeing to communities like Patako and the other community close by to Wande. For Wande particularly, there is no security presence in that community, and that is the reality of those who are there.
Joshua, thank you for your coverage, and please do stay safe while you're there. Well, I'll continue with you. My comments were not a direct reflection of the fact that it's not an indictment that the security agencies are not working. Of course, we know that they are working, but the correlation between what they are doing and the security situation in these communities doesn't seem to align. So my concern is, are we pushing our security agencies enough to get them to maybe think beyond what is at the present, so people can have this sense of confidence that something beyond words is happening in terms of security?
Well, that is why I said a new tactics, new approach, new method is being adopted, and in order to handle this very matter. These people have succeeded in putting fear into the locals, and then, it's a guerrilla warfare. And in a guerrilla warfare across the globe, you adopt different style, different method, and then you come when it is not expected. While the security agencies are blocking angle A, B, C, D, and E, they are looking for another area or angle where they will perpetrate their mayhem. You see, we have a lot of challenges. The areas are bushy. The security agencies cannot cover everywhere or succeed in doing the fight against insecurity without the community's cooperation, without information, without credible intelligence. Now, if the community suspects something, they are supposed to reach out to the security agencies so that an impromptu approach can take place in order not to allow this kind of escalating situation to be rolling itself and then showcasing itself and giving them, having their day, and then making people to begin to have fear, of course, and that will create a blame game for the security agencies, making them look as if they are not working or they are not coordinated or they are not achieving the desired result. But the truth is, first and foremost, Nigerian security agencies are saturated, most especially the armed forces, because of the security challenges bedeviling the country across almost 32 states, like you rightly know. And then our security agencies are spread across all those prone areas, while the president is working towards the recruitment of additional 28,000 troops, and then increasing the number of divisions from 8 to 12, as well as giving the instruction for the recruitment of forest guard, a large chunk number of forest guard and things like that. Training and retraining.
We need to go on a break.
Intelligence and what have you.
We need to go on a break. It is a fact, one of our headlines tonight. In fact, our first headline was the president ordering the military, the police, and the DSS to work together on the Niger State abductions. As a security analyst, what are some of the key things that need, or in terms of strategy, that needs to change in order for us to go beyond the rhetoric? That will be after the break. We'll take your response. Thank you for staying with us. We still have a while. Your response, please.
Well, what the new thing that is supposed to take place is the community involvement in security activities. That is what is paramount, as what is important for now. The security agencies are not magicians. They need information. They need credible intelligence and timely as well in order to achieve result. Like I said, these people cannot manufacture information and they cannot manufacture intelligence. So if they must succeed, then the community must be involved. Other stakeholders must be involved in providing information and credible, timely intelligence in order to succeed. Yes, the president has directed for the coordinated approach, joint operation in order to, fish out and rescue the kidnapped victims, held and hearty. But then, even with the instruction, the community needed to be involved because the community knew their area, they know their terrain better than the military men or the joint operation team that will be coming. So for them to succeed, the community must be involved. They must provide information and intelligence. With that, I can guarantee you it will take a very short time for the rescue of these people and also the continued protection of life and property by our security agencies.
All right, well, thank you for speaking with us.
Thank you for having me.
We'll stay a little longer on security matters and tell you that the new Commissioner of Police in Osun State, Ibrahim Zungura, has visited Ikire following a deadly attack on police personnel along the Ibadan-Ife Expressway hours after assuming office. Police say a patrol team responding to a distress call over an alleged abduction came under attack by unidentified assailants suspected to be political thugs. 2 civilians were killed, while 2 police officers sustained serious injuries. At the scene, the senator representing Osun West, Lere Oyewumi, alleged that the DPO was at the center of the incident. Zungura ordered a comprehensive investigation and deployed a tactical and intelligence assets to track the perpetrators.
Let me say, a case was handed over to the DCCI. It was directed to investigate this case thoroughly. And while I say thoroughly, I mean thoroughly. Whatever outcome, will make it known to the KBC and Senator will be informed.
You understand now? Even though it is 10 years ago, we have forensic people that will work on it to determine when and how this one was shot.
This morning around 8 o'clock, people just started rushing to my house that 2 people have been gunned down by policemen at Naira and Kobo Junction, very close to the garage. So I addressed, I was going to a meeting with the governor. So when I got there, I met one lie down on the road, shot dead. Then the other one was inside his vehicle.
Security agents must immediately deploy maximum force to reclaim Ikire, secure all local government secretariats, and recover all stolen police weapons. We demand immediate arrest and prosecution of T. Benson, Soskid, Ayewo, and
The Nigeria Financial Intelligence Unit says terrorists are exploiting crowdfunding networks and other financial channels to raise and move funds for their operations in Nigeria. The agency says foreign-based facilitators are using social media to solicit donations under the guise of humanitarian relief or educational support before moving the funds through several accounts to terrorist operatives. According to its 2025 annual report, hundreds of donors are encouraged to make small contributions through PayPal pages and bank accounts, with the amounts kept low to avoid automated anti-money laundering alerts. The NFIU also says terrorist financiers are opening accounts in women's names and using phone numbers not registered to account holders or actual beneficiaries, making it harder to trace the flow of funds. Global policy and financial analyst Femi Onokore joins me now to discuss this further. Thank you for being here. I mean, we find these terrorist kidnappers on social media. Social media influencers have raised the alarm several times. They make calls on mobile phones. They come live on social media. So there is, I mean, one would understand the skepticism here as to how this is just now being uncovered. Is it an uncovering in your thinking or an acknowledgement of something already known in the public domain?
Thank you. It's actually not... what this exposed was that the whole intelligence gathering was not real time. It was based on a review of transaction pattern prior to that. And one must commend NFIU for identifying these patterns and these trends. What we had before is that we had set some guardrails against, terrorist financing and policies. However, the financiers and the entire network, they seem to have changed their modus operandi. And by changing their modus, what they are doing is that they do a crowdfunding position under the threshold, that the flag of points at the tech hand will pick up. and then, they bring it together and then disperse, still riding within the, the limit of the, the threshold given. So this situation provides kind of umbrella for them to operate their operations, and I think NFI should be commended for catching it. I also believe that this will help them also improve change from threshold limits, right, and start looking at behavioral patterns of deposits. Are there multiple deposits, even in small funds to a particular account? This person, the confirmation of the, in KYC monitoring, is this the same person as was registered as the BVN consistent, and a constant reevaluation and iteration of the whole process?
I need you to break this down for us. How possible is it to use a dead person's account without consequences? I mean, there's a lot of noise about BVN, NIN, all kinds of, fingerprints and all of that. How is it possible that someone who is dead, the account is still functional even now?
So that's actually one of the key lapses in the system we currently operate. For SIM cards, for example, there are a lot of people who, they just change their SIM card, that it was stolen, either, misplaced or damaged. But the actual card, the physical card, is not the representative identity. The identity is the owner of the, of that particular SIM. And by switching to another SIM, the kind of luxury we enjoy, you can switch to another SIM, another network and all. If that account is not closed, right, and, those inside the network know that these accounts are not dormant, they can, they are dormant. They can actually, nefarious actors can actually sell those identities and then operate with mobile banking, infrastructures on it. The same thing in terms of bank. A lot of times people do not report debts, in the country. And by not disclosing this, it doesn't get captured in the entire framework of things. And such situations become perpetuated over time and creates a cover for these terrorist activities to go on.
Okay, so now it's the NFIU says facilitators use pre-registered SIM cards, including those registered to dead people, and then SIMs linked to gender-based proxies to break the connections between bank accounts, SIM cards, and BVM. Now we know this information. It is in the on the front border. How do we break the cycle from your vantage point of view?
As with all systems, there needs to be a structural change in the model, that is being applied. For example, we need to, like I highlighted previously, move away from just bulk transaction threshold and then start looking at, more random, geographically displaced and unconnected individuals, multiple small transactions into an account of outflowing out from an account. So the NFIU needs to do some, change in that particular model of operation. They also need to understand that just as technology improves, the criminal elements as well, they also devise new ways by exploiting what is present. So the owner of an account who has passed the BVN, NIN, and all the other validations does not equate into the operator of the account. This means that all the institutions involved in the financial sector, from the NFIU, the CBN, and all the banks and microfinance banks involved, they need to come together and then start putting iterative, with confirmation procedures into the policy framework, so that you can track, if this person, the provided profile of this person has the means to operate on this transaction level. So that is another, way of trying to track it and nip it in the bud. There will be some, challenges, but operationally, all the agencies can work together and leverage on technology. I think we can achieve, we can really build on what the NFIU has uncovered.
Femi, always a pleasure talking with you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Now, Nigeria's rising insecurity, as we've been talking, and the activities of armed bandits have renewed calls for stronger security and justice institutions. The issue is at the center of discussions at the Nigerian Bar Association's annual General Conference in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. Legal practitioners and security stakeholders examined gaps for allowing violent crimes to persist and the challenges facing efforts to tackle armed groups. They also considered measures to strengthen the country's security and justice response, particularly in dealing with the activities of known and unidentified gunmen.
State police is the way to go. I believe in it. What I think we should do is that we should not allow them to behave like the present Nigerian police force. Lawyers must get involved in training them. Lawyers must assist their clients to pursue their rights to the end, so that we don't give them that liberty to start behaving with impunity.
Right? We are so overwhelmed with using men, and men cannot do it. Men bring corruption, they bring about all of these things. So, but when you have the machines, the drones, the scanners, and everything, I think it will be able to help us. So we should leverage on technology.
The root cause of insecurity is politics. The people that benefit from it are the cause of the insecurity. The government benefits, the police benefit, the military men benefit. The customs will seize contraband goods, rice. But you don't know how guns are entering Nigeria.
Let's go to one of our lead stories tonight. The Kano State Center for Disease Control says that 32 cases of diphtheria have so far been recorded across the states this year. The clarification comes after the State House of Assembly raised concerns over reports of more than 50 deaths linked to the disease, particularly in communities in Rano local government area of the state. The center says that the difference in the figures may be linked to underreporting, as some residents do not seek medical attention or formally report suspected cases. Still ahead tonight, Iran vows to resist widened U.S. sanctions, says Washington seeks talks. Stay with us for details. Thank you for staying with us. And a big story coming off Tanzania is that the Vice President, Emmanuel Nchimbi, has resigned from office, saying he wants to respect President Samia Hassan's wishes for a change in leadership. Nchimbi announced that his resignation will take effect on September 4, saying he had previously promised to step down if the president wanted a different vice president. The resignation comes just a week after the suspension of the critical Mwana Halisi newspaper, which had reported alleged divisions between the vice and President Hassan. And Canada has announced fresh retaliatory tariffs on about $20 billion worth of U.S. imports, escalating a growing trade dispute between the two longtime allies. The new duties, taking effect September 8, range from 15% to 50% and cover about 700 products, including steel, aluminium, furniture, clothing, appliances, and electronics. The move follows President Donald Trump's latest 50% tariffs on Canadian imports, which came into effect after trade talks between both countries collapsed.
Today I'm announcing that Canada will match the United States tariffs dollar for dollar, rate for rate. Effective September 8, Canada will impose counter tariffs of up to 15, 25, or 50% on $27.6 billion in imports from the United States of America. For each product, our tariff would match the American tariff on the same type of Canadian good.
For more on this, a global policy analyst, Yomi Fawehinmi, joins me now from Ontario, Canada. Thank you for being here. What does Canada's decision to match U.S. tariffs tell us about the current state of their relationship and how significant are these new tariffs for Canadian businesses and consumers?
Okay, thanks for having me, and great question. One of the things that's very unfortunate about trade tariffs is that everybody loses. That's a good starting point, that everybody loses with increased tariffs on both sides. The U.S. and Canada has been the bastion or the model of relationship between two countries, perhaps one of the best relationship between two neighbors that the world have seen. But under President Trump, things have become worse. Canada, as it's over time, has been very reliant on the U.S. for many things. And one of the things that President Trump complains about is that Canada has been freeloading on the U.S. and there is no data that backs that up. But as it is now, Canada exports around 77% of its goods and services to the U.S. So over 70% of export from Canada goes to the U.S. So if you put some tariffs on those things, it could really affect a good part of exports in the U.S. At the same time, and that's why Canada is retaliating. However, Canada only imports about 40 to 44% of its products from the U.S. So it's a little bit of an imbalanced trade between both. But if you consider the fact that the U.S. economy is a bigger one, Canada will have to find a way to deal with it. What is also very important is the kind of things that Canada exports to the U.S. And that's where Canada can actually get a chokehold on Mr. Trump to drop some of the things he wants to do. There's some critical things that many households in the U.S. cannot do without. Energy, for example, number one. Many refineries in the U.S. are dependent on Canadian oil. Electricity. There are states that the dominant supplier of electricity for them is either Ontario or Manitoba or Saskatchewan. So there are states that if Canada decides to cut off or put a 50% tariff on electricity, some homes will not be able to light that. Some industries rely on equipment from minerals from Canada, zinc, selenium, nickel. Over 40 to 70% of the demand of that product in the U.S. is made from Canada. So Canada has lesser things, but has critical things that will eat some families and some homes. And if you remember, midterm election is around the corner. You don't want to get into trouble with those families that will be eat by those things.
I mean, you said something earlier. Can there be further negotiations, really, with these tariffs in place?
Oh, okay. I mean, that's what has happened since President Trump came in. You know, people come up and call him taco. Trump always chickens out. He throws this very heavy stuff, expecting to get a good bargain. He doesn't get a good bargain, then he says, okay, I'll move it by so date. If you remember just a couple of months back, he did the same with the Golden Hour Bridge that's supposed to link Windsor with Detroit, Michigan. He got a good bargain, and Canada seems to back out. I think one of the things that is making Canada to not want to back out is that there was a similar transaction over a bridge that Canada built. And the U.S. government under Donald Trump said Canada must do more for it. So Canada seems to have rolled over on that project and conceded more to the U.S. I think it was obvious to our Prime Minister Carney that I will be rolling over too much because I just rolled over on this bridge construction. I shouldn't roll over this. And for the bridge construction, it was in the interest of Canada to roll over because we will lose more if we allow the U.S. to keep being insistent as they were. But on this, there's a likelihood that Canada can get this particularly for the states, and some of those states are red states that they are relying on to win votes at the midterm, that this can make them come back to the negotiation table. So I believe the goal of Canada is to get back to the negotiation table, not to be punitive or not to hit at people, because what's the point? Everybody loses with tariff. But the goal is let's get back to discussing and drop some of those outrageous demands that the U.S. government came up very recently. I mean, some of them that were not even issues about international trade. Right. Why should you be having requirements for what language they speak in the country as part of global trade negotiation? I mean, those things should not be bothering what you concern you in trade agreements.
There's always not enough time when you're on the news with us, but we do thank you for the insights you provide.
Thank you.
Iran says it will resist expanded U.S. sanctions aimed at isolating its economy while insisting that the major trading partners will continue doing businesses with Tehran. The latest measures were announced by U.S. Treasury Secretary as Washington seeks to increase pressure on Iran amid a conflict that has lasted nearly 6 months. He has warned countries continuing to trade with Iran that they could face exclusion from the dollar-based financial system, although he did not identify potential targets or give a timeline. Iranian officials say Washington is also seeking to revive talks with Tehran, while Tehran, maintains it will push back against the latest economic pressure. Stay with us for business, sports and entertainment news right after this break.
And in business, Nigerian lawyers have backed the Office of the Tax Ombuds's efforts to promote voluntary tax compliance and strengthen trust between taxpayers and authorities. The support was expressed during a panel discussion titled Pay Now, Prosper Later at the 66th Annual General Conference of the Nigerian Bar Association in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. Tax Ombuds Chief Executive Dr. John Nwabweze said the office provides an independent platform for resolving taxpayer complaints fairly and promptly. He disclosed that 22 complaints have been received since the office opened in January, with 14 already resolved. Nwabweze said the Ombuds' non-judicial role could also help reduce pressure on the courts. And Africa Finance Corporation Capital Partners has launched a $150 million infrastructure climate resilient fund in Nigeria to finance green and climate resilient infrastructure. The fund, approved by the Securities and Exchange Commission, will mobilize domestic institutional capital from pension funds, insurers, and sovereign wealth funds. The initiative forms part of a larger $750 million Pan-African climate program targeting a $3.7 billion project financing pool. AFC said initial investments will focus on transport and renewable energy, with the first investment expected before year-end. And Ghana has banned the export of unrefined artisanal gold doré from September 1st, 2026, under a new directive by the Ghana Gold Board. The policy requires gold purchased by self-financing aggregators under the approved off-take arrangements to be refined locally before export. Gold Board said exports will only receive approval after confirming local refining payments and applicable fees and compliance with assay, regulatory and export requirements. And that's as much as we can take on business tonight. Markets are closed, so no NGX for today. I am Joanna Mustafa. Up next, sports with Favor.
And in sports, the first edition of the National Intermediate Games is set to attract no fewer than 14,000 young athletes to Lagos State, with organizers promising a platform to discover and nurture Nigeria's next generation of sporting talent. Speaking at the media parley, Vice Chairman of the main organizing committee, Lekon Fatodun, said Lagos is fully prepared to host a successful and memorable games. The competition, scheduled for October 1st to 15th, will feature athletes aged 15 to 18 competing in 28 sports across 11 venues in the state. Fatodu also highlighted the potential economic impact of the games, with organizers projecting more than 100 billion naira in economic activity for Lagos.
Successes in terms of what Lagos State is capable of doing. This is another opportunity to say that we are ready, we are prepared. Apart from the fact that Mr. Governor has gone to check all our facilities, the MOC came again 3 days ago.
And now to football. Nigeria will begin their quest for a place at the 2027 Under-23 African Cup of Nations in the second qualifying round after receiving a bye in the opening round. The Olympic Eagles will face either Mauritania or DR Congo, with the second round first leg scheduled for November 9th and the return leg on the 17th of November. The qualification draw was conducted at the CAF headquarters in Cairo, with 42 nations competing for 7 places alongside hosts Egypt, who have automatic qualification. Nigeria among 14 teams exempted from the first round based on their performances at the previous 3 editions. And now to tennis. Novak Djokovic and Aryna Sabalenka have been eliminated from the U.S. Open mixed doubles after losing to Czech Katerina Siniakova and Britain's Henry Patton. Now, Djokovic and Sabalenka won the opening set but were unable to maintain the advantage as the doubles specialists fought back to claim a 1-4, 4-2 victory before sealing the decisive tie break 10-2. Siniakova and Patton, the world #1 ranked women's and men's doubles players respectively, will face Gail Monfils and Elina Vitolina in the quarterfinals. And that's a wrap on Sports Update. I am Favor Itoa. Entertainment is up next with Sam Dandy.
Now in entertainment, popular Nigerian dancer and hype man Poco Lee, whose real name is Iwe Odinaka, has reportedly been remanded in the United Kingdom over an alleged assault. The Snaresbrook Crown Court in London has confirmed that he is expected to appear before the courts on September 15, 2026. The case follows allegations against the entertainer, with reports stating that he is currently being held on remand. Poco Lee's friends and colleagues have also reportedly rallied around him following his arrest. The September hearing is expected to determine the next steps in the case. Now, beyond Africa, this one's some sad news. Country music legend Dolly Parton has died at the age of 80. The singer, songwriter, actress, and philanthropist passed away in Nashville, leaving behind a career spanning nearly 6 decades and a catalog filled with global classics, including Jolene, 9 to 5, and I Will Always Love You. Parton rose from humble beginnings in Tennessee to become one of the most celebrated figures in music and entertainment. Beyond her music, she made her mark in film, business, and philanthropy. Her death comes after health challenges that had affected some of her recent shows. May she rest in perfect peace. Those are the biggest stories in entertainment. I am Sam Dandy.
That's all we have for you today. But before we go, a quick recap of our top stories. While residents flee their community following abduction of village head's wife as Tinubu orders rescue of worshippers abducted in Niger State. Kanu Assembly demands urgent action following death of more than 50 children from latest outbreak of diphtheria. Off her shores, Tanzania's vice president has resigned amid worsening power crisis with President Samia Hassan. As always, we would like your feedback. Please share them. Use the number showing now on your screen. We are on all social media platforms at News Central TV. Please give us a buzz. Live programming is on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Have a good night. It is from me, but stay tuned for Game On.